All right, we can move forward maybe into something a little more lighthearted, because yesterday was the Super Bowl. I'm guessing everybody knew that. And so I have the question to both of you who were not raised LDS, but you did become LDS as teenagers, and then you had your own families. Did you or didn't you watch the Super Bowl in your families?
No,
No.
not in my family. I'll bet Bill did because he's a big fan. He's a big Browns fan.
I never get to see my team in the Super Bowl, but I do watch professional football. And as a believing Mormon, my entire side of the family were not members. My family is a sports family. And so we'd go over to my parents' home every Sunday after church and watch the Browns game and enjoy dinner there. And we'd always get together for Super Bowl weekend as well.
Yeah, I put this out on social media, this question, and it really ran the gamut of what families did. Some families, I even knew families like this, they would record it and they would watch it at 12:01 midnight, right? Not on the Sabbath. They would stay up all night and then they'd go to school all tired because they had watched it at 12:01. I know
Don't
other
Mormons
families
know that it's 12:01 somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I would think too, but I guess it had to be Utah time or wherever. I know families that it didn't matter at all. They didn't even think twice about it. They would leave church early to go home for their Super Bowl party, might even shop at the store on Sunday to get the snacks for the Super Bowl party. My co-host Landon told me a funny story. When he was a young married, his home teacher was a former NFL player, and his team was in the Super Bowl on a certain Sunday, and he called up Landon and said, can I stop by for home teaching? This is during the Super Bowl where his team, as an NFL player he had played on, was playing.
The home teacher's team.
The home teacher's team. Yeah, not Landon. He's not an NFL player. Yeah. And Landon was like, you don't want to watch your team. He's like, no, home teaching. And so Landon said, well, okay, you can come over during halftime. That's how dutiful he was. And he said to the home teacher, do you want to even know the score? He said, no, I don't. Let's just continue with the lesson. So some people have a very different take on it. So I was just curious about that. And maybe you guys can comment in the chat if you were in a family that could even watch TV on Sunday, let alone the Super Bowl. And I think it probably depends on what kind of a sports family you were. I mean, if you were, you're going to find a way to watch it, and that's just it. But it kind of made me think about the whole idea of sports on Sunday. And it seems like up to a certain point, it's an absolute no-no. But when it goes into the stratosphere of the Super Bowl, it's okay, right? Because here we have Randy Reed, who everybody loves, although I have been told that he takes the sacrament during the week, maybe like on Saturday, so that he's not missing anything on Sunday. But I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on observance of the Sabbath day. I have a scenario I will never forget. When I was a mom with kids that were on a soccer team, it was a traveling soccer team. It was, pretty important. We went to a tournament, and the last day, if we made the playoffs, was going to be on the Sunday. The coaches let us know. And I think both coaches were bishops. They said, we will coach on Sunday, but our boys on the team won't play if we make it to the playoff. And we did make it to the playoff, and the coaches coached, but the boys didn't play. They sat on the sidelines and they cheered on the team. Like, where are you? Where's our right wing? Oh, you're over there cheering, right? Of course we didn't win. And I will just never forget that. The idea that, I don't know what it was, virtue signaling. Maybe it was a deeply held belief, but they basically let everybody down. And I'll never forget that. It was such an interesting scenario. So it's funny to me. We talk about, Randy Reed and other players that we celebrate playing on Sunday because that's just what they have to do. And then I kind of go back to what I talked about last week and the week before with the bundt cakes. Utah lawmakers race against the clock to help the franchise facing Sunday mandate deadline. It's coming up. The franchise owners have said, I won't do it, and they're trying to put it all into place. It's kind of interesting that they're claiming, we have to be able to worship on Sunday how we will, right? And we need a bill that's going to help us. They're trying to lock down. It's really interesting. I just had to read this little part before we get to more about the Super Bowl. It says the bill, the Franchisee Protection Act, would prohibit a franchisor like Nothing But Cakes from requiring a franchisee to open on the day of worship if it conflicts with a sincerely held belief, right? Religious belief under the original franchise agreement clearly includes the requirement. And so nobody ever talks about protecting Saturday. There are many religions that Saturday is their Sabbath, but this is Sunday. The legislation would allow for franchisors to amend a new franchise agreement, which would include a religious day operation requirement. But here's the tricky part. It would prohibit the franchisors from refusing to renew the agreement based on a franchisee's decision not to comply. So they can't do anything about it. You can be open on Sunday if it is your sincerely held belief. If the franchisor violates the statute, then they would be liable to pay damages to the franchisee, civil penalties up to $10,000 for the first violation, $25,000 for the second, $50,000 for subsequent violations. Do you have a comment, RFM?
Just geez.
Yeah, no, geez. This is getting national attention. There are CNN analysts weighing in on this because it's just so crazy. So, and I told you last week, I was there for about 10 minutes and I saw probably about $100 worth of business. It said in a statement from Nothing Bundt Cakes that the customers have given overwhelmingly positive feedback on the requirement for them to be open 7 days a week. And that's what I saw. And I also told you that the franchisor has said, you know what, we'll be open for 6 months. If the market doesn't bear, then we'll close. So it's interesting, this protection of Sunday, this religious observance. And yet when it comes to, higher level sports, go ahead. It doesn't even matter at all. So anyway, kind of interesting. But the other thing that comes up when you talk about the Super Bowl.
Rebecca, before you get to betting, I want to ask you, is there any truth to the rumor that on Saturday, who's this guy in the red again? Randy Reed?
Randy Reed.
See, I follow football a lot. Yesterday was the first
He's an LDS coach.
I've watched this entire season at the Super Bowl. I was glad at least one team decided to show up.
He's a very famous LDS coach.
Yes, and I saw his garment too. So
and he's the one that said his favorite trilogy is the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and the Pearl of Great Price. He was in the news as saying that.
His favorite trilogy?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
It's like the Bible is just a prequel now. Did he say the Bible, the Book of Mormon, and the Pearl of Great Price?
Yeah, wasn't that unusual? I'm just hoping people who follow him will Google the Pearl of Great Price.
Not a Doctrine and Covenants fan, but I was asking if there's any truth to the rumor that on Saturday, when Randy Reed takes the sacrament, that he insists on a bundt cake being blessed.
Oh my God. I would insist on a bundt cake. Like, I can't stop reporting on it because I got to Google the pictures and pick one. And I'm already right now craving a bundt cake. So
you're not going to
convince Bill's attention. What'd you say, Bill?
You're not going to convince me he hasn't had a few bundt cakes.
Oh dear. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't need to go there, but I understand that he and Daniel C. Peterson will be settling down to share a cottage by the road together.
Oh my goodness.
On the joke.
You just have to go there. It is funny though, how people sometimes, people that they virtue signal about their Sunday observance. I remember there was a rugby player that was LDS. It was in the Deseret News, and he was, up to be drafted, and he had said, I will not play or practice on Sunday, and there was this great article about this young man who would not do that. And then there just wasn't much else. And I don't know if he got drafted or not. I know later it was sort of like, oh yeah, I'll play Sunday. So, there's this big push. And then you kind of realize, you know what, there are some things that you do with your profession that you have to do on Sunday. And there are other ways to have religious observance. It does not have to be on that day. Originally, the Sabbath was on Saturday. So anyway, kind of interesting.